I'd like to call the meeting of the State Board of Medical Licensure to order. I am Michelle Owens, Board President. And at this time, we would like for our Executive Director to perform our roll call.
Thank you. Dr. Owens,
Present.
Dr. Lippincott,
Here.
Dr. Joyner,
Here.
Dr. McClendon, here. Dr. Kennard, Dr. Gersh, Dr. Givens, Dr. Dotson, Dr. Loper, here. Major General Herring, Mr. Brewer,
Here.
Ms. Gaines, Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. So at this time, we will have our invocation and pledge. So our invocation will be given by Dr. McClendon, and then we will be led by Dr. Loper in the pledge.
Let's pray.
Oh, great God, we praise you for your love for us. We praise you for the amazing blessing of being your children. I pray that you be with us today as we make tough decisions, Lord. Pray for wisdom that only comes from you, Lord, and not from man. Be with us this day as we go about our other responsibilities. We also pray for all the other leaders in the state. Help guide them, give them wisdom in everything we do. Please forgive us where we failed. Here, let me pray.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I want to acknowledge our guests. We have Ms. Lori Busick, who is our court reporter. Hey, and Happy New Year, welcome. And also, Mr. Barnes, our board attorney, is joining us virtually.
Good morning.
Good morning. He's unable to be with us in person today. Do we have any other individuals that are on Zoom that we need to acknowledge at all? Yeah, I thought so. Dr. Gersh did not originally, I think, answer to the roll call, but he is present on Zoom. So I did want to make sure that that was known, because I did not hear him respond. We also have Ms. Avery Lee, who's the attorney for the Board of Pharmacy, present with us. And of course, I always forget to acknowledge Alexis Morris, who is who serves as our hearing officer and who also is the representative for this body from the Attorney General's office. Okay, at this time, we will just kind of move along with the agenda. So at this time, we will open up the floor for any announcements and public comment. Hearing none, we will continue on to the Executive Director's report.
So in licensure for November, December, we had 68 MD and DO. And what I've started doing here, you'll see in parentheses, is how many we had for the previous 2 months prior, just to give y'all a comparison. So in September, October, we had 104. But We had no podiatrist, licensed in November, December, 7 PAs. We did have an additional 163 compact license issued, and we personally issued 7 letters of qualification to the IMLC. Certifications to other states, 400. In investigations, we received an additional 79 complaints. We were able to close 24 cases, opened 14 new cases, giving us a total of 71 cases. Cases closed within 7 days was at 64%. We requested 91 PMP reports, and out of those 91, 60 required additional investigation.
What I thought I'd do today, since we're at the beginning of the legislative session, is just give the board an overview of what we plan to ask for this legislative session budget-wise. This is a very high-level flyby. And so if any of the board members want more details, y'all can either ask Mike Lucius or myself, later, and we'll be glad to provide more details. For the fiscal year 2024, which is what we're in right now, we were budgeted or given spending authority for $4 million ish dollars. And as of December 31st, we had spent 1.7 million of that, which is about 43%. We project that in the second 6 months of fiscal year 24, we'll spend an additional 3.7 million, which is about 50% of the total budget, meaning we will have used about 93% of our spending authority, which is about where we run. If you look at it closely, most of that is in salaries from rollover positions when the position's not filled in some way. So, going into the 2025 fiscal year, we'll be meeting with the budget committee and the legislatures, and our ask going in will be variable, will depend on several things. Going into the 2024 fiscal year, we had 4 vacant positions that we were unable to fill because the legislature cut our spending authority, as they did with many state agencies, kind of almost at the last minute. So we did not have the funding to be able to fill those positions. We're going to be asking for an additional spending authority of $168,000 to fill 4 vacant positions, an administrative support assistant in the executive branch of the board, an investigator 2 in investigations, and 2 customer service reps in the licensure division. It's also more important than ever to retain people that we have trained to do these specialized jobs. And so we'll be requesting additional funding of $239,000 for increased salaries for employees to be able to keep them in place. As I'm sure the board would very much appreciate, we're requesting $69,000 for a new audio system for this room, so that we quit getting all the feedback that we've been getting. And we're in the middle of a plan to replace all of our computer hardware. And we're doing that at 25% per fiscal year, and we're asking for $20,000 to continue that process. Last year during the budget committee meetings, I was asked about our additional funds that we have. And one of the recommendations that I made was that we spend it on our licensees who actually created the additional funds in the first place. And so what we're recommending this year is that we ask for an additional $500,000 to provide a free CME course for all licensees of the medical board, and that's to be held in state. And we would pay MSMA to administer this program for us.
we're, thinking that that would be a 3-day conference, and the place, we're looking on the coast right now. So that's kind of what we have envisioned. This gets a little bit more difficult to read because of the size of everything. But bottom line being that in salaries, we're asking for an increase. In equipment, we're asking for an increase. Subsidies, we're asking for an increase. And so, we're requesting a total budget authority of around $5 million, going into fiscal year 2025. And for that, I'll be glad to entertain any questions, anybody has.
I have a question. What's the latest with the legislative audit?
Peer review. Okay, so they have completed their, I'll just call it an investigation, and we're still waiting on a report. So we don't have anything new to report on that.
Well, thank you for that. We will now move on to the next item on the agenda if there are no additional questions for the executive director. So next is the approval of the minutes from the executive committee from the November 15th meeting. That's tab 5 in your binders. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to look over those minutes. But if not, I would encourage you to do so now. And I would appreciate or entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor for approving the minutes from the November 15th executive committee meeting? Say aye.
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 There we go. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next, we'll move to tab 6, which is the minutes from our last board meeting from November 15th and 16th. In addition to reviewing the actions, please make sure that you review them for accuracy. If you were here and don't see your name or any of those corrections, please let us know. And at any point, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So motion for approval has been made and properly seconded. All in favor? Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, minutes are approved. Thank you for that. Tab number 7, which is not really a tab, I think, is the report of the executive committee meeting for yesterday, which will be given to you by none other than the illustrious Dr. Tom, the illustrious secretary of this great body, Dr. Tom Joyner.
Did I take a vow?
I teed it up for you real well. Don't mess this one up. Don't mess it up.
The executive committee met yesterday, Wednesday, January the 10th. We heard 5 cases. The first was a Zoom appearance by Jennifer O'Brien, MD, PhD. The PhD plays an integral part in this discussion. She presented, she had not completed her USMLE step exam within 7 years of the rule says you have to take it within 7 years of when you take the first step. You have to take the next step. She had really good explanation. She was in an MD PhD program. That MD PhD program got delayed by her proctor changing. She had to essentially start over. Then they had a hurricane, which wiped out her lab. She had to rebuild the lab and such. And we felt it was appropriate, and we granted her a waiver of license. And she is licensed in 4 or 5 states now. So. The second was a personal appearance by Dr. Hillegrass. Dr. Hillegrass presently works at the University Medical Center in research. He is a cardiologist by training, but He hasn't practiced cardiology since 2018, I believe. And so he doesn't meet the requirements in Part 2601, Chapter 1, Rule 1.3. After discussion with him, we was felt that he needs to have a re-entry program, and that re-entry program will be administered by Dr. Cleveland, Dr. McMullen, who is the chairman of the Department of Cardiology, and they will report to Dr. Cleveland. And so we granted him a restricted license. Number 3 was an individual who wouldn't it? Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Was it a restricted, did we delay issuing a license till March while we work out the reentry program, or did?
No, we delayed it until March they have to come up with the reentry program to your satisfaction, and then you.
And that will be presented to the board for final approval.
All right, the third individual.
You're like, oh, you're
The third individual's records and evaluation was subject to the being exempt by the Public Records Act. So they won't be discussed here, but we discussed it in executive session of the executive committee, and we granted a unrestricted medical license. The fourth was a Zoom appearance by Dr. Clay Hayes. It has to do with the 80-20 rule. He's wanting to
That was an extended mileage.
extend mileage.
Extended mileage, not 80-20.
Okay, sorry. Extended mileage, 75 mile rule. He has a nurse practitioner in Ruleville, which is like 85 miles away. They need cardiologists there, and so we granted a waiver for that rule. And the fifth, it was an appearance by our illustrious President, Dr. Michelle Owens. She was wanting an exemption from the 80-20 rule or the 20-80 rule, whichever way you approach it. We felt this was appropriate, and we granted a waiver. And that is my report.
So you have heard the report of the executive committee meeting on yesterday. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
So it's been motioned and properly seconded. Any further discussion on the items that have been presented? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? And any abstentions? Okay. Next, we will move on to our committee reports. This is probably going to be a little amended because we do have a few of our committee chairs who are not present today. But if there is a representative that is present and you have a report or information on a meeting, you can please feel free to speak on behalf of your chair. Hopefully that would have been arranged in advance, but if not, then that's also fine if you want to still just kind of give an update. So we will start and just go in the order as it's listed with scope of practice. Any representative from scope of practice?
Scope of practice did me.
Okay. Professionals Health Program, Dr. Lippincott.
No report.
Okay. Telemedicine and Interstate Licensure Compact. Dr. Givens is the chair. Any member of that committee, or was there a meeting?
Telemedicine did.
Okay. licensees, education and communication. Dr. McClendon.
So we routinely put out the board newsletter, and so we're always looking for topics to try to make it as interesting as possible. So if anyone has any topic that they would like us to have thoughtful about or spotlighted, please let me know. Or
Thank you, Dr. McClendon. Physician Assistant Advisory Task Force.
They did make.
Okay. And then rules and regs.
Rules and regulations at this meeting does not have a report, but we promise to come back next time with a report.
Sounds good. Do we have any, and just following up on that, do we have anything else that's pending right now from OLRC or anything like that?
So we did meet with OLRC mid-December or so. And they did approve the changes to the bariatric regulations, but we have not received the certificate from the Secretary of State's office, so it's not ready for public presentation yet.
All right. So moving on, we have, I guess, first the approval of a consent order. This is tab 9 for Dr. Wade Banker.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, Paul.
Okay. Dr. Banker, his primary state of licensure is in Ohio. Dr. Banker's license in Ohio has been permanently revoked. This came out of an investigation into his the quality and conduct of his practice, believe in the years 2015 to 19. So it's a little dated, it seems. However, the order of permanent revocation was only issued in May of 2023. Dr. Banker is vigorously defending and has appealed the rulings of the Ohio board. We offered Dr. Banker the opportunity to accept an indefinite suspension pending the outcome of his appeals, and he agreed and has signed the consent order. And so I would request that the board approve the consent order, and Dr. Banker will be indefinitely suspended pending the outcome of his appeal of the Ohio revocation order. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I make a motion that we approve the request for a consent order.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or further discussion, rather? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the consent order, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is the hearing in the case of Dr. Fakaridi from
Yes.
Cleveland, Mississippi.
Yes, ma'am. And I know that the board has seen this matter on the agenda numerous times. It is being continued again. This is directly related to the availability of the witnesses. This is an extremely complex standard of care cardiology case. The board has at least 2 interventional cardiologists that we are going to put on the stand. We anticipate that this is going to include live interpretation of diagnostic films, and it is simply a scheduling matter to get those expert witnesses in the here to testify before the board. And with the agreement of Dr. Fakaridi's counsel, we ask that the board continue this to March, and I assure you that we are diligently working to get all the witnesses available for this hearing.
It's something we're gonna have to do on a Saturday. It just, I mean, I was just wondering like how complicated it is to get everybody. I know they still do their jobs on the weekends, but I just was, anyhow. All right.
We will explore any options that the board, desires.
I mean, I'm not necessarily volunteering everybody Saturday. I just was wondering as she thought before she spoke again. Okay, so I would need a motion to continue this case. All right. Thank you, Dr. Love. Second, appreciate it. All right. Any discussion? Oh, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, and any abstentions? Perfect. Thank you. So we are continued yet again. Next, tab 11, the hearing in the case of Dr. Is it Feinzimmer?
I believe they pronounce it Feinzimmer, ma'am.
Feinzimmer, thank you.
We at the board generally pronounce it Feinsheimer. I'm not sure which is correct. But this is a first motion for continuance. Dr. Feinzimmer was served for the January board meeting. His attorneys immediately requested their first continuance. We expect that this will go forward in March.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Oh.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. And any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries. Tab 12, a hearing in the case of Trung Nguyen from Tyler, Texas.
Yes, Madam President, this is also a first motion for a continuance. Dr. Trung Nguyen was served for this board meeting and very quickly requested a continuance. And again, we do expect this to go forward in March and therefore request that the board grant Dr. Nguyen's first motion for a continuance.
All right.
And I do want to mention one thing about this. This started, make sure I'm looking at the right case, and I do apologize. This started as a mirror action. And truth be told, we were treating it as a mirror action investigation. And then the investigative division uncovered substantial evidence that additional Mississippi specific charges were appropriate. So this will not merely be a mirror action. Dr. Trung Nguyen has had numerous actions taken by other boards, but we will also be producing evidence and substantiating charges, direct violations of Mississippi specific rules and regulations.
All right.
I move we accept the request for a continuance.
All right.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that was Dr. Gersh. All opposed? And any abstentions? Thank you. Next, tab 13. Hearing in the
Yes.
case of Dr. Holzhauer.
Yes, ma'am. This also has appeared on the agenda several times. Dr. Holzhauer has reached a private agreement with the director that made the director comfortable in allowing this to continue to the next month. We are trying to resolve this. I would prefer not to state the terms of the agreement in public, but if the board wishes to go into executive session to get the details, we can explain the basis of the agreement Dr. Holzhauer has reached with the director. But we would request that based on the private agreement that the board approve the motion for continuance.
And Paul, just for completeness, this would be continuance number. I know I think we're beyond 4, or is this 4?
I am not positive.
Okay, all right.
I think the first one was last July.
All right.
This
So,
is three, maybe four.
um,
Third.
third, okay. Is there a motion?
I move to close the meeting to consider whether to enter into executive session on this matter.
I'll second that.
Okay. So, it's been moved and seconded that we close the meeting, to consider whether to go into executive session. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right.
Hello? Hello? Yes,
Hey, Dr. Gerst, they've gone into executive session.
yes. I'm here.
Okay.
All right. The board is now in open session and Dr. Joyner will share the decision of the board from executive session.
Thank you. After the executive session, we voted to approve the continuance and that this is the last continuance and the hearing must be set to occur at the next board meeting. Final resolution will be determined at that time.
All right. Moving on to agenda item 14. Hearing in the case of Dr. Edward Moak from Brookhaven.
Yeah, we wanted to inform the board that, Dr. Moak provided an email to staff this morning that he has medical conditions unable to attend today. So, keeping that in mind, I would recommend to the board that they continue the matter to the March meeting, but also, if they could request that the temporary suspension stay in place until the time that hearing is set and is taken up. For the
All right.
Any question? I'll be glad to answer questions.
So can I get a motion first and then we can do discussion and if there's questions? Okay. All right. So a motion for continuance with the current, it's a temporary suspension to stay in place.
So
All right. Now any discussion? Is there some pertinent background that needs
I
to
mean,
be shared?
this is a prescribing case initially. And a lot of times in situations when we have, prescribing cases, I will bring the licensee to the board and have a discussion with them. Try to bring out to them what we see and Dr. Moak also had medical conditions the 2 times I tried to schedule him for compliance. And so
Okay.
at that point, further examination was required and it was determined that he was unfit to practice. He signed an agreement not to practice.
Okay.
So
He
there's,
violated that agreement and that's the board, that's what he's charged with.
so there's not a consent order, there's an agreement not to practice.
Agreement not to practice. Correct. He violated that agreement not to practice. And I suspended him for that violation, and that's what he's charged with.
Paul,
Yes, ma'am.
you sounded like you were trying to talk. I was just giving you a second.
I was just gonna say, technically, I believe it was an examining committee order
Okay.
prohibiting his practice that he is not compliant with.
So his license is suspended.
It is now. He violated. Paul, I think he signed an agreement not to practice with the examining committee.
I believe we originally thought that, sir. He did not, but he was ordered not to practice. He was ordered for evaluation. He did not complete the evaluation process. And the examining committee actually came back to the board staff and the director in early December because they were having trouble getting in contact with Dr. Moak. And when evidence was uncovered that he was in fact continuing to practice, at that point, the director suspended him for being in violation of the examining committee order.
Okay. So,
There is also a possibility that he may make some amendments to, what charges may take place at the proceeding that's taken up in March.
so right now,
Yes,
go ahead, Paul.
he is, yes. We have information that Dr. Moak, not only the charges that are in the documents, he's already charged with, he has in fact violated the order of temporary suspension issued by the executive director in mid-December. And so we do plan on adding charges concerning that, based on that, for the March board meeting.
Were you?
Those charges couldn't be discussed today because they weren't in the original notice. So if y'all want those charges to be considered by the board, that would be another reason to to grant a continuance to March so that they could be added and served on the license.
Thank you.
So we feel pretty confident that he is not practicing this.
We're doing everything we can.
So if he's been deemed to be unfit to practice medicine, why do we need to?
Well, he still has due process rights.
So he can appeal, I guess, the recommendation of whatever, of the examining committee. He still has the ability to appeal that decision, right? Because if that was the case, then it would just be the final say, whatever comes from them comes to us and we rubber stamp it, but he does have the ability to refute that.
So I might add, technically, he hasn't met all the conditions of the examining committee's order. And that is another reason why we wanted him here, so that he would complete the process of the examination. He has not done that. He's only done part of what has been required.
Okay. So Dr. Loper, was that the,
Yeah, I just want to feel confident that he is not practicing.
What do you?
one second, because David, that was your, and you made your comment.
I
Dr.
just
Joyner,
want
and
to
then-
read this when everybody's through.
Oh,
So to make
yeah,
sure
so-
I get
well,
that.
yeah, because we are going to restate the motion that is on the table, so that's done, but we're not ready yet. Dr. Lippincott.
What do you do if somebody continues practicing when their license is suspended?
Fine, I'm $100.
So the penalty for practicing medicine in the state of Mississippi without a license
$100.
is a fine of $100.
If I may, for our licensee, because this began as an examining committee matter, it was non-disciplinary until Dr. Moak became non-compliant. If he continues to be a scofflaw and flaunt the board's orders of suspension, I would be strongly inclined to advise the executive director to seek revocation. But we have taken, there's nothing that this board can do once he's suspended. There's really very little that we can do if he just continues to practice medicine. We have now made the order of temporary suspension public. It has been reported to the data bank. So anywhere he attempts to practice medicine should be on notice. And the only other alternative I know of, and if Avery knows of anything else, I would welcome her to describe it, but we would have to go to Chancery Court and get an injunction against Dr. Moak, prohibiting him from practicing. That could be backed up by the full authority of the chancellor, who could find him in contempt, sanction him, fine him, etc. That would be the next step if he refuses to comply with board orders.
Is he represented by counsel or have these communications directly just with him? Okay.
The limited communications have been directly with him. When this comes for a hearing, you'll realize that he basically went radio silent for almost 3 months back in the fall. And again, this email we received this morning, he was originally served with a temporary suspension on December 15th. The email this morning was the first communication, excuse me, the first communication we had from Dr. Moak. As far as we know, he does not have an attorney, and we had not heard from Dr. Moak until this morning.
And also, just so the board members are aware that the Board of Pharmacy is also aware of the temporary suspension order now. And so pharmacists are now put on notice that they cannot bill from either, which is in,
But he did meet with the examining committee, right?
he
He
did.
did.
That was on July 26th.
Do we have a report from that?
We don't yet because he hasn't completed what was in the order of the examining committee. They ordered him to have the evaluation. He did. The evaluation came back that he needed to have additional testing, and he has failed to complete that additional testing this time.
We have a preliminary, not a final report.
Right.
What does the preliminary
No.
report say?
You
We
can't-
need to go into executive session.
yeah.
Can we do that?
If
So, my question, I'm sorry. So we can't do that right now. We have a motion on the floor, okay? So we have a motion on the floor, and keep in mind, this is a motion for a continuance. And so there's information that,
Also to continue the suspension issue.
correct, he's gonna read it, but I was just trying to like level set for what the issue is that's really before us right now, recognizing that we haven't gotten to hearing and those kinds of that information yet. We're not there yet, but yes, he is suspended, and we are now going to hear from Dr. Joyner what the motion is that's on the table that has been moved and seconded.
All right, the board finds that the continuance is to be granted, and here's where I have trouble, agreement or suspension not to practice stay in place. Should it be suspension or agreement?
Order of temporary suspension to remain in place until the hearing at the next board meeting. And but just so you know, this is his first request for continuance because the hearing was set pursuant to the order that was issued by Dr. Clayton.
Continuance to be granted and order of temporary suspension not to practice stay in place.
This order of temporary suspension is enough, I think, because suspension not to practice, he's suspended, so that's enough.
Well, it's a little redundant, but
Just trying to make it smooth for you. Okay, so are we ready to vote? Any further discussion on this issue before we vote on the motion that you've just heard? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to grant the continuance and to leave the temporary suspension in place, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? Anybody abstain? Thank you for that.
Madam President, I just wanted to say thank you personally to Avery Lee for being willing to step aside from her duties at the Board of Pharmacy yesterday to pick up this file and prepare to take lead on this hearing, on an emergency basis. It's over and above what most people would do. And the fact that Dr. Moak didn't show up this morning, it's not really a surprise, but I really personally appreciate Avery Lee for what she has done. And I wanted to say thank you on the record.
Awesome. Thank you. Absolutely.
And I second that appreciation. So I was the one that had to make the emergency phone call. She agreed to jump in. She spent her evening last night studying this case and preparing for it. So much
He
thanks.
heard I was gonna be here and that's why he didn't show up.
As my parents say, teamwork makes the dream work. So I think it is just to kind of segue off for a moment of presidential privilege, just to show how important the collaboration is between our agencies, and also with the backup and support that we have that's consistent through our AG reps. It's just been, I think, a good thing, and I think it works for the benefit of the public. And the more collaboration that we have between our agencies, I just think the better it's going to be. This is kind of, I think, how things should work. And while what you did was really awesome, like, I think it's great that there was at least the environment where those asks could be made and somebody would be willing to respond. And I think that goes to just a lot of work on a lot of people's parts. So thanks to everybody for that. All right. Next, we're going to move on to 15. So these are, I need a motion because we have some subpoenas to approve. So I would like to entertain a motion to close the meeting.
We close the meeting to consider whether we're into executive session now.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dr. Gersh. We're gonna take Gersh's instead of yours today, local. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of closing the meeting, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Fantastic. Guess we'll.
Aye.
We are now back in open session and Dr. Joyner will share the decision of the board in executive session.
Thank you. The board met to discuss several investigative subpoenas, and we voted to approve investigative subpoenas for, do I get the case number? Okay. 2024-049, 2024-054, 2024-020, 2020-040.
2024?
2024-040.
Yes, sorry.
No worries.
They get jumbled up after a while.
No, 2024-020. There's a lot of, that's just a lot of 2 zeros, lots of 20s. Okay. Next item on the agenda is if you will look behind tab 16, just a friendly reminder, as we are now in 2024 of the annual FSMB meeting. It is going to be held in a location closer to us. We don't always get them too close, but it's going to be in Nashville. The dates are April 18th through the 20th. So just kind of save the date. Mark it.
If we could get an initial head count on everybody that anticipates they will be.
Yeah, did you do a count on this already? By email? I don't know why I thought we did. Okay. Well, hold your hands high if you plan on attending.
What if you would love to be there?
All
Yes.
right. Oh, Dr. Gersh is here. You got everybody? Okay, awesome. Thank you all for that. I was trying to think, yeah, it's the science of sound decisions is the theme for this Federation meeting. It sounds like it would be pretty interesting. And you know, Frances is going to be sending out the information to make sure that you get back with her, so all of the details and travel arrangements can be made. Last item on our agenda is setting the March 2024 board meeting dates. You know, March is an interesting month because we have, you know, spring breaks and other things. So the tentative dates right now are the 20th and the 21st. How do those dates look for the folks who are here? And we will confirm with the other people who are not. It's a little weird. It's leap year, so March dates don't mirror February dates this year.
I don't know what spring break is.
So you clearly don't have children who are still.
That's one way, and I've just forgotten to change.
It's the week of the 10th. So the 11th through the 15th.
Ours is next.
There's 25th through the 29th. Oh, it's at the latter part. But that's like right up to, you know, that's also Easter, coming up to Easter. So that's Holy Week, yeah. Ooh. And spring break at the same time? Ooh. Yeah, I kind of didn't feel right. But yeah, so we're squeezed there. So we squeezed the meeting right in between the spring break for North and South. All right, that works for everybody. All right, sounds good. Thank you all so much. Any other issues or items of business? Because this actually concludes our agenda. Anything?
There's apparently a great capital day. So everybody's here. If you haven't been fitted for a white coat or a plan for board members to be at the Capitol to help us try to improve the chances of amending the Medical Practice Act
that we have been trying now for 5 years to do. Please try on the jackets if you need to, or give us the size that you know you wear and how you would like your name styled on your jacket. Is also what we'd like. So I just need to take as soon as possible, as soon as we get one. We'll do it. And there may be some random, hey, can you come this day also?
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
Can my name be Beyonce on my jacket?
I didn't hear what you asked.
Can my name be Beyonce? I just get it.
Beyonce.
Beyonce.
I'll put whatever you want. I'll be great.
It'll be a nice icebreaker. Okay. So, so if that is, everything, then, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So, second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all so much for your time and attention.
So we do have lunch coming.